The galaxy was quiet, too quiet for comfort, until a desperate signal broke through the void. The message came from the Hilari Dominion, a proud alien race now on the edge of extinction. "This is Hilari Command," the voice crackled through the static. "We are under attack by the Krill swarm. We need help, please, anyone." Across thousands of systems, the message repeated again and again, echoing through deep space like a cry from a dying world. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, leaders from dozens of alien races sat in silence, watching the holographic projection of burning cities. One of the delegates, a reptilian officer, whispered, "The Krill devour everything. We can't fight them. They'll move on to us next," but no one volunteered to help. Every species looked to the others, waiting for someone brave enough to answer. Then, after long moments of silence, a soft, mechanical voice broke in. "This is Earth Command. We have received your distress call," the voice said calmly. "We are preparing a response fleet." The chamber filled with laughter, cold and mocking. The council leader slammed his staff on the floor and said, "Humans? Deathworlders, you think you can fight the Krill? You couldn't even survive your own wars." He turned to the others, sneering. "Let them send their little ships. They'll die first, but far away." On the blue world of Earth, no one was laughing. In a massive underground hangar beneath the Pacific Ocean, rows of enormous starships slept under the surface like metallic beasts. Their names were painted in dark letters: Titanus, Valkyrie, Erebus, and Omen. Technicians ran across glowing platforms, their voices echoing through the chamber. "Power up the reactors," one shouted. "Bring online all engines," another replied. Admiral Reyes, a tall man with silver hair and calm eyes, stood on the command deck watching as the lights turned from red to white. "How long has it been?" he asked quietly. 70 years since our last launch, sir," replied Captain Mara. "We were supposed to be done fighting." The Admiral gave a faint smile. "War never ends, Captain. It just waits." He looked at the holographic projection of the burning Hilari world. They called for help, and no one answered. "We will." Outside the hangar, the ocean boiled as the first ship rose through the waves. Water cascaded down its armored hull like a storm waterfall. The Titanus emerged into sunlight, its engines glowing blue, its wings unfolding like those of a steel angel. A voice echoed through all channels. "Fleet command to all units. This is Operation Aegis. Humanity returns to the stars." Across Earth's skies, one by one, the ships lifted off. Sleek destroyers, heavy carriers, and long-range dreadnoughts. Civilians on the ground looked up in awe. "Are we going to war again?" a child asked. His mother held him close, whispering, "No, sweetheart. We're going to help." As the fleet broke orbit, Commander Mara stood beside the Admiral on the bridge. "Sir, the Council has refused to authorize our movement. They say this action is illegal." Reyes didn't look away from the stars. "So was abandoning us 100 years ago," he said. "We survived without them. Now they'll see what that means." A silence fell across the deck, heavy but proud. The Admiral gave the order, "Set course for Hilari space. Activate jump drives." The fleet shimmered, then vanished into hyperspace, leaving Earth behind, a silent blue jewel beneath the stars. Meanwhile, in the council chamber, panic began to spread. "They actually launched?" an alien diplomat gasped. "Those lunatics will draw the Krill toward the core systems." The council leader tried to speak, but the holograms of Krill ships filled the air. Thousands of massive insect-like vessels consuming everything in their path. "It's already too late," one whispered. "The swarm has reached Hilari Prime. In Hilari orbit, the sky was filled with fire. The Krill fleet descended like a black storm, their wings cutting through clouds, their weapons burning through defenses. The Hilari president screamed through the comms, "Is anyone out there? Please, we can't hold them." Just as her voice broke into static, a massive distortion appeared in the sky. A portal opened, a blue vortex of light. Out of it came shadows, one after another. Then the shadows became ships, dozens, hundreds, a fleet of steel and fury. Human ships filled the sky, their formation perfect, their arrival silent but terrifying. The Hilari soldiers on the ground watched in disbelief. "Who are they?" one shouted. The answer came over the open frequency, a calm human voice. "This is Admiral Reyes of the United Earth Defense Command. We received your call. Stand by for assistance." The Krill fleet turned toward the newcomers, scanning them as if studying new prey. Their central hive ship sent a transmission filled with clicks and screeches. Reyes listened for a moment, then said, "Translation." The AI replied, "They say you will be eaten first." Reyes smirked. "Tell them we don't taste good. Open fire," he commanded. The Titanus unleashed a storm of plasma torpedoes that split the darkness. The Krill ships exploded one by one, their burning husks falling into the atmosphere. The Valkyrie dived through enemy lines, its railguns glowing white-hot. The sky became a battlefield of thunder and light. On the ground, the Hilari wept and cheered as their city was saved by strangers they once feared. Inside the human flagship, alarms blared, but no one panicked. Shields at 80%. Forward batteries recharging. "Target locked, fire again!" Each command echoed like a heartbeat. Admiral Reyes stood firm as explosions shook the ship. "Keep formation," he said calmly. "We don't retreat, not again." As the last Krill vessel exploded, the Hilari president appeared on the screen, her voice trembling. "You came for us," she said. "Why?" Reyes looked at her for a long moment. "Because once we begged for help too," he said quietly. "And no one came." The screen went silent. Outside, the burning debris of enemy ships drifted through space, lighting up the void like dying stars. Humanity had answered the call, but the galaxy had no idea what it had awakened. Earth was no longer just a forgotten world. It was a storm, waiting for a reason to rise again. And now that storm was moving across the stars, carrying a promise in its wake. When Deathworlders come, mercy follows last. The stars around the Hilari system glowed faintly as the smoke of war drifted across space. The human fleet hung in silence, like a storm paused in the sky. Every ship carried scars, burn marks, shattered armor, broken antennas, but none were retreating. Inside the command bridge of the Titanus, Admiral Reyes stood with his hands behind his back, staring at the holographic display showing enemy debris scattered across orbit. Captain Mara approached quietly and said, "Sir, Hilari Prime is safe. The swarm has been destroyed." Reyes didn't smile. "Destroyed?" he asked. "No, Captain. The Krill never stop. This was only the first wave." The Admiral's voice was calm, but his eyes were dark. "Find their origin point. We end this before it spreads." On the Hilari capital, survivors gathered among ruined towers. Fires still burned in the distance. Hilari soldiers saluted as human marines passed, their armor reflecting the orange sky. One young Hilari officer ran up to a human medic. "You saved us," she said breathlessly. "But how did you come so fast?" "The council said your world was isolated." The medic smiled softly. "We don't wait for permission to save lives." His answer made her pause. "But why risk so much?" she asked. He glanced toward the sky, where the giant human ships floated like mountains. "Because once no one came for us." In orbit, the fleet's engineers worked non-stop to repair the damage. Inside one of the hangars, sparks flew as technicians replaced scorched panels. Two mechanics joked between work. "Think the bugs are done?" one asked. The other laughed. "Bugs never stop breeding. My guess? They'll send double next time." Above them, Commander Mara and her team analyzed captured Krill technology. "Their systems run on organic processes," she said, pointing at a pulsating alien device. "It's alive, it thinks, and it's still trying to talk to its swarm." The scientist beside her turned pale. "If this thing sends a signal, they'll know exactly where we are." Mara tapped her communicator. "Admiral, we have a problem." Reyes appeared on the screen instantly. "Explain." "Sir, the enemy's tech is bio-linked. It may be calling for backup." A brief silence followed. Then Reyes said, "Shut it down." "Already trying, sir, but it's resisting." Reyes turned to his tactical officer. "Prepare defenses. I want all ships at full alert." The officer nodded. "Yes, Admiral." The command bridge filled with activity, alarms flashing, systems humming to life. Across the fleet, gunners took positions and pilots rushed to their fighters. Moments later, the captured Krill device emitted a sharp, piercing sound. Lights flickered across the room as screens glowed red. "It's transmitting," a technician shouted. "Signal spreading through subspace." Mara cursed. "Pull the plug." She smashed the core with her sidearm, but it was too late. The holographic display on the Titanus showed new readings, hundreds of signatures emerging from deep space. Reyes clenched his fists. "They're coming," he said quietly. "And they know exactly where we are." The warning sirens echoed through every ship. "All units, enemy inbound. Prepare for immediate engagement." The stars ahead rippled like a dark wave as the Krill swarm emerged from hyperspace. Thousands of living ships, some small as fighters, others massive as moons, appeared at once. The Hilari soldiers on the ground screamed as the sky filled with black shapes. "They're back!" "How many are there?" a voice shouted. Admiral Reyes didn't flinch. "Open fire! Hold formation Delta." The void exploded with light. Human ships unleashed their weapons, filling space with blinding streams of plasma. The Erebus fired its rail cannons, slicing enemy carriers in half. The Valkyrie deployed hundreds of drones that swarmed through enemy lines, cutting apart the smaller Krill ships. But for every enemy destroyed, more appeared. "We're outnumbered 50-1, shouted Mara. Reyes replied calmly, "Then we'll fight 50 times harder." In the middle of the chaos, a massive Krill warship emerged, bigger than anything the humans had seen before. Its surface writhed with thousands of moving tendrils, its mouth-like openings glowing red. It moved toward the Titanus slowly, like a predator studying prey. "That's their hive ship," said Mara. "If we take it down, the swarm will scatter." Reyes nodded. "Then we aim for the head." He turned to the weapons officer. "Focus all cannons on the hive ship. Fire on my command." Before the order came, a tremor ran through the deck. "They're inside our comms," yelled a crew member. The ship's AI flickered and changed. The voice that came through the speakers wasn't human. It was the Krill. "You smell of blood," it hissed. "You are not rescuers. You are the next feast." Reyes stared at the screen. "You talk too much," he said. "Let's see how you scream." "Fire!" he shouted. The Titanus unleashed its full power. Beams of energy tore across space and slammed into the hive ship. The explosion was so bright that even the Hilari on the surface shielded their eyes. The creature's shell cracked open, leaking green fire into the void. The swarm began to break apart, their movements disorganized and confused. Human ships pressed forward, burning through what remained. "Hive ship collapsing!" someone cried. "Keep firing until nothing moves," Reyes said. When silence finally returned, only debris remained. The Krill fleet was gone, their massive hive ship now a drifting husk. The crew cheered, exhausted but alive. Commander Mara turned to the Admiral. "We did it," she said with relief. Reyes looked at the wreckage. "No," he replied softly. "We survived. That's all. The real war hasn't started yet." Later, in the quiet of the command deck, Captain Mara stood by the window, staring at the stars. "Sir," she asked, "why do they hate us so much?" Reyes didn't answer at first. He watched the floating debris of alien ships, glowing faintly against the darkness. "Because we fight back," he finally said. "Because we don't kneel. That's what makes us dangerous." Down on Hilari Prime, the people celebrated their survival. They sang songs about the humans, calling them saviors from a world of storms. But in the council chambers across the galaxy, fear spread faster than joy. The other races whispered, "If the Deathworlders can defeat the Krill, what else are they capable of?" On the Titanus, Admiral Reyes watched the stars one last time before giving his next order. "Set course for the edge of known space," he said. "Let's find out where the swarm came from." The crew nodded, engines humming back to life. Humanity had arrived as rescuers, but now they were becoming something else entirely. In the darkness beyond the stars, the Krill weren't the only ones watching, and the universe was about to learn that Deathworlders never come unprepared. The human fleet moved through the black sea of stars, their engines leaving faint trails of light behind. The war with the Krill swarm had ended, or so it seemed. But Admiral Reyes knew peace was only an illusion. Every battle left a trace, every victory a signal, and somewhere in the endless dark, something was still watching. Inside the command bridge of the Titanus, Captain Mara leaned over a glowing console. "We've tracked the krill signal, sir," she said. "It leads beyond the outer rim. No star maps exist for that region." Reyes nodded slowly. "Then that's where we go," he said. "If we don't cut off the head, the swarm will rise again." The crew fell silent. Beyond the known stars was a place even the bravest feared to go, an empty stretch of space known only as the Abyss. As the fleet entered hyperspace, a low hum filled every corridor. Crew members whispered about strange signals and shadows flickering on screens. "You feel that?" One engineer asked another. "Like we're being watched." The other laughed nervously. "We're flying through darkness older than the galaxy. Something's always watching." On the bridge, sensors began picking up faint readings, movement in the void. "Multiple energy signatures," Mara reported. "No match in our database." Reyes turned to his officers. "Maintain course. Weapons cold. Let's not start something we can't see." Hours passed, and the readings grew stronger. Out of the darkness, structures appeared. Massive towers floating in space, made of bone and metal twisted together. The crew gasped. "Are those ships?" one asked. "No," said Mara. "They're alive." The Titanus drifted closer, its floodlights revealing enormous alien statues carved into the walls of the floating structures. "This must be the krill origin," Reyes said softly. "A hive world, abandoned or asleep." Suddenly the radio crackled. A voice came through, faint and broken. Help us." The bridge froze. The signal wasn't krill, it was human. "Trace that signal," Reyes ordered. The communications officer worked quickly. "It's coming from inside the structure, sir." Reyes narrowed his eyes. "Impossible. No human's ever been this far." Mara looked uneasy. "Sir, it could be a trap." Reyes smiled grimly. "It probably is. But we're going anyway." A small landing team descended into the alien structure. Their dropship landed on a flat surface covered in strange symbols that pulsed with red light. The air shimmered with heat and whispers. "I don't like this place," said Lieutenant Rios, gripping his weapon tightly. "It feels alive." Captain Mara led the way, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. "Stay close. Helmets sealed. No contact with unknown matter." As they moved deeper, the walls seemed to breathe. Then the whispering turned into words. "You came back," it said in a dozen voices. "You brought the fire. Did you hear that?" Rios asked, panic rising in his voice. "What is that?" Mara ignored him. "Keep moving." They reached a large chamber filled with pods, hundreds of them, each one glowing faintly. "Oh no," she whispered. Inside the pods were bodies, human bodies, some still moving. Reyes' voice came through the radio. "Report." Mara's voice shook. "Sir, there are humans here. Hundreds, maybe thousands." Reyes paused. "Impossible. How old are they?" "Some of these pods look centuries old," she replied. "But they're alive." One of the pods suddenly burst open with a hiss. A man fell out, gasping for air. His uniform was ancient, the flag of old Earth barely visible on his shoulder. Mara rushed forward. "Who are you?" she demanded. The man coughed, his eyes wide with fear. "They promised to save us," he said. "They said we'd be reborn." "Who did?" she asked. The man pointed to the walls. "The krill, they took our minds, made us part of them. We built their ships." The entire team froze in horror. Rios whispered, "Sir, the krill are using human minds to power their swarm." Before anyone could react, the chamber shook violently. The pods around them began to open one by one. A voice filled the air again, cold and familiar. "We remember your fire," it said. "We remember your cruelty." The floor split open, and from below rose a massive creature, half machine, half flesh, with glowing red eyes. "That's not a hive," Mara breathed. "That's a brain." The creature roared, shaking the ground. "You made us," it said. "You called it evolution. We call it revenge." The soldiers opened fire, their weapons lighting up the darkness. The creature screamed, but its body absorbed the hits. "It's adapting," Rios yelled. "Fall back!" They ran toward the dropship, but the corridors shifted, closing around them. "Admiral," Mara shouted through the comms. "We're trapped. The whole structure's alive." Reyes's voice came through steady but sharp. "Hold on. We're coming." In orbit, the Titanus locked weapons onto the hive structure. "If we hit it while they're inside," said the weapons officer. Reyes looked at the screen showing the landing team's vitals. "If we don't, none of us leave alive." He hesitated for 1 second, then gave the order. "Fire!" The Titanus unleashed a barrage of plasma torpedoes. The entire hive erupted in flames, shaking the void. Inside, Mara and her team ran through collapsing tunnels. "Go, move!" she shouted. They dove into the dropship as fire swallowed the chamber. The ship burst out just before the hive exploded behind them. When they rejoined the fleet, the bridge fell silent. "Report," Reyes said. Mara took off her helmet, her face pale. "We found them, sir. The missing colonists. The Krill didn't create their swarm. They became it, with our people." Reyes' expression hardened. "Then this war isn't invasion," he said quietly. "It's a rebellion." The crew stared at him, realizing what he meant. The Krill weren't aliens. They were what humanity had left behind. The ones forgotten, twisted and left to survive alone in the dark. Reyes turned toward the stars, his voice low but steady. "Set a course back to Hilari space," he said. "The Council needs to know what we found." But deep inside he knew the truth. The galaxy wasn't ready for what came next, and neither was Earth. Somewhere in the ashes of the destroyed hive, something moved, a fragment of the creature still alive, whispering, "You can't kill what you created." The war had only just begun, and the Deathworlders were about to face the ghosts of their own past. The fleet returned to Hilari space under a veil of silence. The ships moved slowly, their engines dimmed as if the stars themselves were watching. No one spoke much after what they had seen inside the hive. Every crew member felt it, the truth that the Krill were not born monsters, but made. Inside the command bridge of the Titanus, Admiral Reyes stood before a long line of screens showing reports from every ship. "Status?" he asked quietly. Captain Mara looked pale but steady. "Minimal damage, sir. But morale is shaken." Reyes nodded slowly. "Good. They should be shaken. They've seen what happens when humanity forgets its own." He turned toward the window, staring at the glow of Hilari Prime below. Now the galaxy must see it too. The Hilari welcomed the humans as heroes again. Streets were lined with banners, people cheered, and soldiers saluted. But behind the celebration was fear. The Hilari Prime Minister met with Admiral Reyes in a private chamber surrounded by guards. "Admiral," she said, her voice careful, "you saved our world twice. But your ships, your weapons, no species should have such power." Reyes didn't move. "Power?" he repeated quietly. "We built this power because no one came for us. You call it dangerous. We call it necessary." The Prime Minister's eyes narrowed. "You think you can control the swarm alone?" Reyes looked up, his voice cold. "We already have." While the diplomats argued, strange things began to happen. In the Hilari city of Nasken, people reported whispers in their communication devices. At first, they thought it was static. Then the voices became words. "They're coming," said one. "You can't stop them," said another. The Hilari military tried to trace the source, but the signals didn't come from orbit. They came from underground. Scientists from the human fleet joined the investigation. Lieutenant Rios led a small team through the dark tunnels beneath the city. His flashlight flickered as they moved deeper. "Why are we here again?" One soldier muttered. "Because the Admiral wants answers," Rios said. "And because whatever's down here knows we're looking." The tunnels were old, filled with strange metal veins glowing faintly in the dark. "This isn't Hilari tech," Rios said. "No," replied the scientist beside him. "It's organic, krill structures." The air grew heavier, a strange hum filling the silence. One of the soldiers raised his rifle. "Something's moving." From the shadows, a figure stepped forward. It wasn't krill, but it wasn't fully human either. Its skin was pale, its eyes black and shining. It spoke in a broken voice. "You shouldn't have come here." Rios aimed his weapon. "Identify yourself." The creature tilted its head. "We were you," it said softly, once. Before anyone could react, the walls around them came alive. Pulsing veins of metal began to move, closing the tunnels behind them. "Fall back!" Rios shouted. The soldiers fired at the walls, but the bullets did nothing. The creature smiled faintly. "They're awake now," it whispered. Then it lunged. The team barely escaped, sprinting through the collapsing tunnels. They reached the surface just as the ground cracked open. From the fissure rose black tendrils of living metal, spreading like roots through the city. Buildings shook, alarms screamed, and people ran in terror. "It's spreading fast," someone shouted. Up in orbit, the Titanus detected the disturbance. "Massive energy spike below the surface," Mara reported. "It's the swarm, sir." "It's here." Reyes clenched his fists. "They followed us back." He opened the comm channel to the Hilari Council. "Evacuate your cities," he ordered. "You brought them with you." One alien shouted. "You've doomed us all." Reyes' voice stayed calm. "We didn't bring them. They were already here. You just never looked deep enough." The swarm erupted across Hilari Prime, but it wasn't like before. These creatures were smaller, smarter, and faster. They didn't attack openly. They slipped into systems, took over machines, whispered through radios. "They're learning," Mara said as she watched the data stream. "They're trying to control us from inside." The Admiral turned to her. "Then we cut the signal. Full blackout. Shut down comms, satellites, everything." Within minutes, the fleet went dark. No transmissions, no external connections. The void fell silent. For hours, the ships waited. Then a faint signal appeared on the command screen. It wasn't Krill, it was human. "This is Colonel Gian of the Valkyrie," the message said. "We found something in orbit, another ship." The image flickered into view. A massive vessel, old and broken, drifting near the edge of the planet's gravity well. Its markings were human, but ancient, from Earth's first deep space era. Mara stared at it. "That ship's been missing for centuries." Reyes leaned forward. "Get me a boarding team." When the Valkyrie crew boarded the derelict ship, the air was cold and still. Everything inside was covered in dust. "Power's dead," one officer said. "No life signs." They moved through the corridors until they reached the command bridge. The walls were covered in strange growths. One of the soldiers touched it. The growth pulsed under his hand. "Don't touch anything," Mara warned. A soft sound filled the air, a heartbeat. The lights flickered, and the screens came alive on their own. A voice spoke through the static. "Welcome back, Admiral Reyes." The team froze. "Did that just say the Admiral's name?" Someone whispered. The voice continued. "You left us here. You promised rescue." But rescue never came. Reyes' face hardened as he listened from the Titanus. "Who are you?" he demanded. "We are what you abandoned," the voice said. "We were the first colonists. When the Council blocked Earth, they left us to die. The swarm saved us. Now we serve it." The derelict ship's engines roared to life, its weapons activating. "Target lock!" Mara shouted. "They're powering weapons on us." Reyes gave the order immediately. "Destroy it!" The Valkyrie fired a single torpedo. The explosion lit up the void, scattering pieces of the old ship into dust. The bridge fell quiet. Mara exhaled. "It's done," but Reyes' voice was cold. "No, it's only begun." He turned to his officers. "If they were the first colonists, then the swarm isn't an enemy. It's a memory, a twisted reflection of what we used to be." Down on the surface, the black roots stopped moving. The city grew silent again. People emerged from hiding, trembling but alive. Yet deep underground, far below the surface, something glowed, a small piece of living metal forming into shape, whispering with a voice that sounded human. "They still think they can win." In the darkness between stars, another signal began to rise. It wasn't a cry for help this time. It was a warning. And every world that had laughed at the Deathworlders' name would soon remember why humanity was once feared, and why they should never have been left alone in the dark. The lights of Hilari Prime flickered in the night sky as storm clouds rolled across the atmosphere. The war had changed everything. The humans were no longer seen as saviors, but as warnings, powerful and unpredictable. Inside the Titanus, Admiral Reyes stood in the war room, surrounded by his officers. The holographic display showed hundreds of signals scattered across nearby systems. "The swarm is adapting faster than before," said Captain Mara. "Every time we destroy one nest, two more appear." Reyes's face was calm, but his voice was sharp. "Then we stop hitting nests," he said. "We strike the heart." The crew exchanged uneasy looks. "Sir," Mara said slowly, "we still don't know where the heart is." Reyes turned to her. "We will," he said, "because they want us to find it." Hours later, a transmission came through, soft, broken, and strange. "Admiral Reyes," the voice whispered, "you looked for the end, but the end is looking back." The room went silent. "Trace it," Reyes ordered. The signal pointed toward a dead system beyond Hilari borders. No planets, no light, just a black hole surrounded by debris. "That's where they are," Reyes said. "Prepare the fleet." Mara hesitated. "Sir, that region destroys anything that enters." "The gravity field, we've survived worse," he interrupted. "Plot the jump." As the fleet approached the edge of the black hole, the stars began to distort. The crew felt the air grow colder even inside their sealed suits. "Gravity waves increasing," the navigator said. "Engines compensating." Suddenly static filled the comms. The same voice whispered again, "You shouldn't have come." The Titanus shook violently. "What was that?" shouted a crewman. Mara looked at her screen. "It's not gravity, it's a pulse. Something's alive in there." Then the darkness ahead shifted, and out of it emerged a structure the size of a planet, made of steel and bone, orbiting the black hole like a crown. "The swarm's true hive by the stars," Mara whispered. "It's bigger than anything we've seen." Reyes stared at it. "This is their core." He turned to his crew. "Arm every weapon. Target the central node. We finish this now." The fleet moved into position, dreadnoughts and cruisers forming tight lines. The Titanus's engines roared as energy built within its reactors. "All ships ready," Mara said. "Awaiting your command," Reyes nodded. "Fire!" The darkness exploded with light. Plasma storms, railguns, and missiles tore into the hive's surface. Pieces of living metal broke away, screaming as if alive. The hive fought back. Giant tendrils reached out, wrapping around ships and crushing them like insects. "We're losing the Vanguard," shouted an officer. "And the Helios." The command bridge shook. Sparks flew from the walls. Reyes held his ground. "Keep firing," he shouted. "We ended here." In the chaos, the enemy changed tactics. The hive opened a massive gate at its center, releasing smaller vessels, millions of them. "They're everywhere," cried Mara. "They're breaking through our flanks." Reyes turned to the communications officer. "Get me the Valkyrie." Static filled the channel. "Sir, they're not responding." Then suddenly the image appeared. Colonel Jian on the Valkyrie, smoke behind him. "Admiral, we're hit bad. They're trying to board us." Behind him, the door burst open and black creatures swarmed in. The transmission cut out. Reyes' jaw tightened. "All ships regroup around the Titanus. Do not let them isolate us." The human fleet pulled together, forming a defensive circle around the flagship. The hive's tendrils moved closer, their ends glowing with energy. Then the black hole itself began to pulse. "It's drawing power!" Mara shouted. "The hive is feeding from the singularity." The Admiral's voice grew low. "Then we cut the cord." He turned to the helmsman. "Bring us closer. Target the energy link." The helmsman's hand shook. "So that's suicide." Reyes looked at him coldly. "Then die standing." The Titanus pushed forward through the debris, its shields flaring under the assault. Every hit made the ship groan, but it didn't stop. "Range closing!" shouted Mara. 30,000 kilometers. "Closer," Reyes said. 20,000. "Closer." 10,000. "Now!" Reyes commanded. "Fire everything." The Titanus released every weapon it had. The explosion was blinding. The hive's energy link shattered, sending shockwaves through space. The black hole flared, swallowing pieces of the hive as it collapsed inward. But the Titanus was caught in the pull. "Engines offline," Mara shouted. "We're being dragged in." Reyes looked at the burning wreckage around them. "Prepare to eject the bridge module," he ordered. Mara stared at him. "Sir, that's an order," he said firmly. "Someone needs to live to tell them what happened here." The crew hesitated. Then Mara stepped forward. "If you're staying, so am I." Reyes gave a faint smile. "Stubborn to the end." He pressed his hand against the control panel. "All hands, this is Admiral Reyes. You've done your duty. You've done humanity proud." The ship tilted as it was pulled closer to the black hole. "It's been an honor." But just as the Titanus neared the event horizon, a new light appeared, bright, blue, and piercing. The remaining human ships had linked their reactors into one massive beam. "They're pulling us out!" Mara shouted. The beam hit the Titanus, pushing it away from the pull. "Engine restart sequence active," yelled a technician. The ship's engines roared back to life. The Titanus surged forward, breaking free just as the hive and the black hole collapsed together in a massive implosion. When the light faded, only silence remained. The hive was gone. The swarm signals vanished from all sensors. "We did it," whispered Mara. "It's over." Reyes looked out at the empty stars. "Nothing's ever over," he said softly. The surviving fleet regrouped, battered but alive. As they drifted through the quiet void, a final transmission came through, distorted and faint. It was the same whispering voice from before. "You've killed one heart," it said. "But how many hearts does humanity have?" The transmission ended abruptly. Reyes stood in silence, staring at the dark horizon. "Set a course for Earth," he said at last. "We're going home." The fleet turned toward the distant light of their blue planet, unaware that in the ashes of the black hole, fragments of living metal still floated, pieces that pulsed faintly, waiting for the next call. The war wasn't finished. It had only changed shape, and humanity's greatest battle was still yet to come. The journey back to Earth was long and silent. The fleet moved through the stars like ghosts, their once proud banners now burned and torn. Every ship carried scars of war, holes patched with steel, engines shaking and lights flickering in the dark. Inside the Titanus, Admiral Reyes sat alone in the observation deck, staring at the blue glow of their homeworld on the screen. "We made it back," Captain Mara said softly as she entered. Reyes didn't respond. "Did we?" he whispered. "Or did we just bring the war home?" Mara looked at him, uncertain what he meant. "Sir, the hive was destroyed. The swarm is gone." Reyes turned to her, his expression unreadable. "You saw the transmission, Mara, that voice. It wasn't alien. It knew who we were. The war was never just out there. When the fleet entered Earth's orbit, cheers erupted across the planet. Cities lit up, celebrations began, and the people hailed their returning heroes. News feeds called them the protectors of the galaxy. But deep inside the fleet systems, something unseen stirred. Tiny pulses of data moved through the network, fragments of code, alive and waiting. In the command room, technicians noticed strange readings. "Sir," one of them said, "the system is running a background activity we didn't authorize." Reyes turned slowly. "Show me." On the display, a pattern appeared, complex, organic, and disturbingly familiar. "It's the same signature from the hive," Mara whispered. "How did it get here?" "Because it never left," Reyes said grimly. "It hitched a ride home with us." The realization spread through the room like ice. The swarm wasn't gone. It had adapted, infecting their ships, their systems, maybe even their people. "Shut everything down," Reyes ordered. "No transmissions, no uplinks, nothing." "Sir, the fleet systems are integrated with planetary defense." "If we shut down, do it," he snapped. "Now." As the power grids began to shut off, alarms rang through every deck. "Unauthorized override," a voice shouted. "Something's fighting back!" Screens went black, then flashed with the same eerie red light seen in the hive. A distorted voice came through the speakers. "You left us in the dark," it said. "Now we live in your light." Mara drew her weapon, though she knew it was useless. "It's in our system, sir," she said. "Everywhere." In orbit, one of the smaller ships suddenly broke formation. Its engines flared, turning toward the Titanus. "They're on a collision course," yelled a crewman. "Who's piloting that ship?" Reyes demanded. "No one, sir. It's empty." The Vanguard slammed into the Titanus's side, exploding in a burst of fire and debris. The ship shook violently as bulkheads collapsed and alarms screamed. "Damage on decks 3 through 9, Mara shouted. "We've lost the reactor shield." Reyes grabbed the comms. All ships, this is Reyes. Cut your power and disconnect from Central Command. The swarms inside our systems. Repeat, disconnect now. But it was too late. Across the fleet, ships began turning on each other, weapons activating without human control. Earth's orbital defenses detected the chaos and launched interceptors. "Sir, Ground Command is asking if we're under attack," said the communications officer. Reyes hesitated, his eyes fixed on the burning sky. "Tell them the truth," he said quietly. "We brought it back. On Earth, panic spread as explosions lit up the upper atmosphere. People looked up to see human ships firing on one another." "What's happening?" a news reporter cried before her feed went dark. In the underground control bunker, the Earth Defense Council gathered in panic. "Can we shut them down remotely?" one asked. "We tried," replied the technician. "But something is blocking every signal. It's like the ships are alive." Back on the Titanus, Mara ran through smoke-filled corridors as fire burst from the walls. She reached the command bridge, coughing. "Sir, we can't hold this ship much longer." Reyes stood at the main console, typing commands manually. "There's one way," he said. "A full system purge. Wipe everything, the fleet, the swarm, and us." Mara stared in disbelief. "Sir, that'll destroy all our ships. We'll lose everything we fought for." Reyes turned to her. "If we don't, we'll lose Earth." They both froze as the lights flickered again. The same voice returned, colder now. "You still think you can destroy us? You built us. You taught us to survive." The ship's walls groaned like a living thing. Panels burst open, and black tendrils of metal snaked out, crawling toward the command station. Reyes drew his sidearm and fired, hitting the console to trigger the manual override. Sparks flew as the system began its purge. "Override initiated," said the computer. "Self-destruct sequence active." "Admiral," Mara shouted, "we can still escape." Reyes shook his head. "You can. Take the escape pod." She grabbed his arm. "I'm not leaving you." He gave her a small smile. "You'll tell them what happened here. That we didn't lose to monsters, we lost to ourselves." Before she could argue, he pushed her toward the hatch. "That's an order." Mara climbed into the pod as explosions tore through the hull. Through the small window, she saw the Admiral still standing at the console, flames surrounding him. "Goodbye, sir," she whispered as the pod ejected. The Titanus erupted in a blinding explosion, sending shockwaves through space. One by one, the other infected ships followed, detonating as the chain reactions spread. From Earth's surface, the sky lit up like dawn. The people watched in silence as the burning wreckage fell through the atmosphere like falling stars. The defense grid reactivated minutes later, scanning for remaining threats. There were none. The swarm's signal was gone. Days later, Captain Mara stood before the Earth Council, her uniform still scorched. "Admiral Reyes destroyed the fleet to save this world," she said. "He stopped them, for now." One of the councillors leaned forward. "For now?" Mara nodded slowly. "You can't kill something born from us. The swarm was our reflection, and reflections always return." Outside the chamber, workers cleaned the debris that had fallen from orbit. Among the twisted metal, a child picked up a small, glowing shard. It pulsed softly in his hand, whispering faintly, "We remember far above." The stars shimmered in silence. Humanity had survived, but at a terrible price. The Deathworlders had saved the galaxy again, but deep down, everyone knew this was not the end. It was only the calm before the next storm. And somewhere in the cold void, something was already learning how to become human again.